What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power lines that are just kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg.
Great to see you again. It's been a year since we did the Figure It Out video interview, but for those of you in the audience who don't know these Chance Encounters, the way it works is I have commercial real estate investors on the show. I ask which of the 5 motivations I've found best describes their own situation, and then I go through the 6 roles in acquiring, operating, and possibly flipping a commercial real estate deal, and I ask which one is your core competency. This is all partly because you need to know your network very, very well. You need to know how they fit together in order to make successful teams. And speaking of making successful teams, I think to be successful, you have to be effective in introducing yourself. So Liz, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Yeah, this is taking me back. I think I did this on the last one as well. But my name's Liz Benzschawel. I work a day job in vaccines, but I also do real estate investing. Started out in single family homes and now just looking for the next multifamily property, also looking at different classes of properties. So CRE, self-storage, really working to find the niche. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for that. So let's get to the first segment, which is motivations. Everybody knows their motivation, but some people, when they're getting started, they don't know what role they're going to play. But let's go through the motivations. So the first motivation I found is some people, especially family offices and whatnot, who rely on their wealth for their income rather than actual work. Their biggest concern that makes them want to pick up a commercial property is that they're afraid of inflation spoiling the entire party. So that's the first reason that some people want to get a commercial asset. The next one is my one, which is that as a high earner in tech, that means I can just, make a high salary and end up investing it into wealth assets, but then I have to pay income tax, and that sucks. So it's better to just be one of the GPs on the GP team, and that way I'm being rewarded for my effort with wealth instead. So that's my one right there. The next one is the most common one, which is fast tracking retirement. But there are a couple things that are implied in fast tracking your retirement. One of them is that you probably have some capital to work with, so you're not actually starting from zero. Trading time for wealth, maybe that is the case, but when you're fast tracking your retirement, that's not so much. But the bigger one is that there's a finish line in sight. There's an end point, and that's got to be a concern for anybody who's co-GPing on a commercial property, because you might be holding on to it for 5-10 years or more. So you have to be concerned that if they're going to become an accredited investor and then just be like, okay, that's good enough, then they're not going to be really helping out. Whereas the next ones, they're so ambitious, they want to buy their entire hometown. I like to make the joke, because there's a one-upmanship, they have to have, like a skyscraper or the biggest yacht in the pier. So maybe they got a little itty bitty penis, but it's hard to say. So that's the ambitious people. But regardless of that side, the main thing is, that these guys are going to hustle till they're in their 90s. So at least they're going to keep at it. But that brings me to the last group, which is the ones who have some sector of society, or maybe it's like helping animals or some sort of cause that they want to assist. And they realize that accumulating wealth is the best vehicle to make a real positive impact on that society or that group. So those are the 5 different motivations. And what combination of those, or what motivation resonates or describes your situation best, Liz?
I'd say fast track retirement. And I'll say that with an asterisk. I've always been a very hard worker, so I don't think there'll ever be a time where I don't have something that I feel like I can put my energy into and feel productive. But I would say fast track retirement in mostly from the standpoint of having options and freedom of time. I love to travel. I love to go to see friends, spend time with friends and family, and just having more freedom to do that is huge for me. And also working in a well-paying W-2 job for a while, I've built up a good amount of capital. So what I love is being able to put that capital to work for me now, because I've worked so hard to build it up. So I'd say fast track retirement. I think that also allows you to spend more time and resources on helping. So I guess a little bit of the helping others as well. But I'd say mostly fast tracking retirement and setting up that passive income.
Excellent, excellent. So the next part is what role you'd end up playing in a co-GP situation. I usually start explaining this, and part of this, of course, is for like any of your friends or whoever ends up watching this. But first, I'll describe what a repositioner is, because I help them, and I am one. I help them streamline their acquisition process. So I've got in the picture, I got a couple different properties, and I got the paperwork. And so what a repositioner has to do, they definitely have to underwrite the property, which means they have to do the math. They have to go through the spreadsheets and say, does this deal make sense? But the other thing that they're up to is finding upside. Okay. In other words, how do you make this property generate more cash than it is right now? I like to call real estate the world's second oldest profession. And so, in other words, it's so competitive that chances are if they could raise rents, they probably would have already. But the two different ways that repositioners generally find upside are more efficient operations. Okay, so you got the money going down the toilet there, because every expense is money down the toilet. And as you cut those expenses, the value of the property goes way up. It's not just that it goes up, it goes way, way up. But the other thing is I got the Benjamins going down the toilet here to let you know it's like it is a money thing. So the person who's doing the books on the GP team, that's an actual job. And the people who are doing the marketing on the team, that's an actual job, because you have to make sure that the vacancy rates are low. So more efficient operations, that's one way to get upside, but we're in the hottest real estate market in history, so that's probably not going to cut it. So a lot of the time we'll end up getting a contractor team to fix the place up. That way we can charge more in rent. So, and if you're smart, you don't let the operations team do that, because, you got to keep the people who are good at it doing what they do. So if you have a nicer apartment complex, you can charge more. And then that brings me to my problem as a repositioner, which is I'm remote based. I'm from the internet. So I definitely need a local. I need boots on the ground who can be there in an hour or two, because I don't even want to have to find my passport in an hour. And so that's absolutely vital to have that. So that's more or less the people who pick up the property and are most responsible for it. But when you pick it up, you're going to have to go to the financier. Okay. In other words, the bank, maybe it's a capital raiser, some combination of a few different things. But you have to go to the financier and say, hey, lend me all this money so I can buy this super duper expensive commercial property. But what they're going to say is, okay, but who is your sponsor? And that's the one that's pretty surprising to people just getting into this industry, because a sponsor is a person who already owns a similar asset. And and you have to have them on if you want to get the loan. So if you want to get like a 300 unit apartment complex, somebody on the team, the sponsor, has to already own a 300 unit apartment complex, even if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. If you want the loan, you got to have the sponsor. And you also have to have a balance sheet where it's at least as high as the amount of the loan. And just like that, those are the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. So out of those, what's your core competency, Liz? Like, what would you be most likely to contribute in your next commercial deal?
I think I would have to say local. And that may be because that's where I'm spending a lot of my time right now, is meeting different people, trying to hear about deals that come up. I've been spending a lot of time networking with bankers right now. One of them had a client that was looking to offload a 10 unit as soon as possible. So being in the loop and being able to hear about those deals is huge. And that's what excites me. As I mentioned in our previous podcast, I partnered with my brother, who's more of the contractor role. But he said to me from the beginning, he's like, I feel like your superpower is going to be networking and building relationships, because that's something I enjoy. And I like connecting with other people. I like learning about other people and their path. So I'd say local is probably my core competency.
Excellent, excellent. So then the next question then is the buy box. In other words, the ideal property for you where it just some of the decision making isn't as difficult, you know. So like, what's the unit count and geographic area for things where you're best suited to do it, assuming, of course, the numbers work out sort of or better.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of a complex question because there's so much that goes into it. You know, if you get past the 10-minute analysis and then dig deeper, but like the opportunity for value add, is the building at current market rates, and is there opportunity to do value add just in raising those rates to get them to what the going rate is around them in the market? But I'd say 10% cash on cash. I mean, I really feel like you have to see the numbers on each deal to be able to say that. But I'd say our buy box is 10% cash on cash. And depending on the asset too. I mean, we're looking at storage units and it's mom and pop ownership and there's deferred maintenance. You know, there's so many things that are particular to each building, right, that once it passes the 10-minute test, that's great. But then you got to dig into some of the other stuff and there might be kind of a diamond in the rough. Even if the 10-minute like 10-minute test doesn't totally check out, if there are other value add opportunities that can, you know, increase the cap rate immediately.
So yeah, so that's the numbers side of it, and then so you did mention that you're a local, so like it has to be like within like a few hours of where you are, or and like what kind of unit counts like is your sweet spot? You mentioned a 10 unit property. You have wiggle room on that for a little bit bigger, or is that where are you at?
100%. So ideally, I'd say 16 units. But just to back up a little bit, when putting together our goals, we want to have at least 20,000 per month in passive income in the next 3 years. So really, however we get there, that's all that matters. So my point in saying that is we'll go lower for an 8 unit. Ideally, we'd like 16 units because a lot of the big guys, that's too small for them. Mm-hmm. Ideally, we'd like 1970 or more recent for when it was built. But again, so much of that is going to depend on the building, the situation, what other components are involved in that. But the biggest thing is just setting up passive income. So we'll go after, again, ideally 16 units, but there's wiggle room to go above or below that. It also depends so much on the area, because if you go somewhere rural, you can get so many more units for your capital as opposed to if you go into a downtown metro area. So
right.
Does that answer that?
Yep. Okay. So that definitely answers that. But my next question, you know, we met through some meetups. I found the meetups through LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn the best way to reach out to you, or is there a website that's better?
LinkedIn is perfect. So I'm under Liz Benzschawel. That's probably the best way to reach me, or westmorelandinvestments@gmail.com.
Okay, excellent. And I have something to say to a couple things to say to you in the internet. One is my own role in co-GPing. Again, I said that I help streamline the repositioners acquisition funnel, and the way that I do that is just find ways to underwrite them even more easily, get the jump on your competition by using digital assets to flag which properties on your list of offers are most likely to pencil out, and then also doing similar forms of operations or automations for operations, and then the marketing piece as well. But the more important thing I have to say to you in the camera is under my hand somewhere over here, there's a red button that makes me really, really sad. It says subscribe, and it makes me sad because it's not gray. You can turn it gray by clicking on it, and that means you subscribed. It doesn't cost you anything. All it really does is it makes it so YouTube pays for these videos instead of me, which is way better. And it adds it might add some of these videos to your list of suggestions on YouTube. If you're like me, I only pull up YouTube when I'm looking for something specific. So I actually ignore the suggestions, but that's how YouTube ends up paying people. So please do that. But Liz, thank you so much for joining me again today. It's been fantastic seeing you again.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks.